Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, if you're a part of a growing startup team, you know the feeling all too well, right? Your phone buzzes, an email pings, or a WhatsApp notification lights up your screen. It feels absolutely incredible. Somebody out there is interested in what you're building, and naturally, you just want to help everyone. But, as we're going to explore today, navigating all these inquiries without completely burning out requires a massive shift in mindset. So today, I'm putting on my business coach hat, and I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love. We're going to break down the strategy of saying no and exactly why targeting your ideal customer isn't just a good idea. It is literally the most important survival skill for your business. Let's dive in. Here is our masterclass playbook for today. We'll be covering interest versus buying intent, the profit leakage trap, the ideal customer profile checklist, red flags and warning signs, the strategy of saying no, and we'll wrap up with building trust through ethical referrals.
All right, Section 1, interest versus buying intent.
When you're a startup team building something from the ground up, it is so incredibly easy to fall into the illusion that every single notification is a guaranteed sale. Every inquiry feels monumental, but we have to stop and ask, is every lead actually a customer? If someone asks for a quick price or shoots you a DM, do you drop everything and treat them like a highly qualified potential sale? You've got to stop treating every casual question as a qualified opportunity. A lead is not always a customer, and a conversation, well, that's not always an opportunity. See, there is a massive difference between superficial interest and serious buying intent. Simple interest, that's someone who just clicked an ad, quickly filled out a form, or asked a basic question. That's just the beginning. It definitely doesn't mean they're serious or that they'll respect your time. Buying intent, on the other hand, means this prospect actually has a specific problem you can solve. They understand the value of your service, they have a realistic timeline in mind, and, crucially, they actually have a budget. Separating those who are just kind of curious from the real, actual buyers, that is step 1 in protecting your time. Moving on to Section 2, the profit leakage trap. So, what happens when you don't have clear qualification criteria? Your sales process becomes completely emotional. It gets driven by that underlying desperation we all feel in the startup phase. And that's when you fall into the profit leakage trap. Profit leakage is when the time, energy, and cost required to serve difficult or unclear customers actually exceeds the revenue that generate. Think about it. Spending hours explaining your value to someone who is never going to buy, or giving away endless free advice. That is not making a sale. That is leakage. You might feel incredibly busy, but you aren't profitable. You're having conversations, sure, but absolutely zero conversions. And the downstream damage of treating everyone as a customer is just massive. Honestly, it's like trying to carry water in a bucket that's completely missing its bottom. First, obviously, it wastes your time. Second, it actually damages your confidence. When untrained price-only buyers are constantly telling you, oh, your price is too high, you start to think your offer is weak, and you end up discounting your own value. But the issue isn't your service. You're just talking to the wrong audience. And the absolute worst part, as noted by the Business Development Bank of Canada, when you're bogged down by these difficult, low-value clients, the service quality for your absolute best clients actually drops.
Section 3, the ideal customer profile checklist.
Okay, so how do we actually fix this? We need a tactical, step-by-step guide to focus your team's energy purely on leads that are likely to close. Step 1, just stop chasing everyone. Step 2, define exactly who your business is built to serve best. Step 3, build your internal systems strictly around those specific clients. Harvard Business Review actually highlights that the ability to consciously turn down business is often the major turning point for a company's success. It's the exact mindset shift you need to move from chaotic, reactive startup behavior to a tightly professionally managed operation. To execute this, you need a strict checklist for evaluating new client inquiries. Following standard Salesforce principles, a genuinely good lead has 5 uncompromisable qualities. Let's run through them. First, a clear need. They know what they want, or they're willing to do a proper discovery process. Second, seriousness. They actually respond to you and respect your time. Third, budget awareness. They understand that professional work costs money. Fourth, decision-making ability. They actually have the authority to approve the project. And fifth, they fit your service scope. If an inquiry misses these marks, they simply aren't your ideal customer, period.
Which brings us to Section 4, red flags and warning signs.
Now that we know exactly what a great lead looks like, we've got to shift to playing a little defense. You need a strict mechanism to spot bad fit prospects before they drain your energy. Keep an eye out for these really common warning signs. People who immediately demand the lowest price. Folks who want endless free advice before they ever commit to anything.
prospects who completely avoid giving you basic information, people expecting magically guaranteed outcomes, or those who blatantly ignore your preparation and compliance steps. Look, a bad fit lead isn't necessarily a bad person, but they are absolutely the wrong fit for your business. When you see these red flags, you have to know when to walk away to prevent wasting your time.
Section 5. The strategy of saying no.
I know, the ultimate fear of literally every startup founder is that saying no means losing money. But accepting a bad client creates immense stress, endless disputes, and huge reputational risk. Saying no isn't a rejection. It is actually a highly strategic business decision that prevents that massive profit leakage we talked about earlier. Try using a script exactly like this one. We cannot support this request within our professional scope. Simple, right? This safely and professionally rejects a bad lead, it sets a firm boundary, protects your reputation, and clearly communicates that you operate as a high-level professional, not a desperate order taker.
Or, let's say a prospect refuses to respect your required preparation process. You can confidently enforce your boundaries by saying something like, "We are unable to proceed unless the required information is provided." If they won't put in the basic foundational work to help you help them, well, they simply aren't a fit.
Finally, Section 6. Trust through ethical referrals.
Now, I get it. Turning down out-of-scope work might feel entirely counterintuitive to growing your revenue. But honestly, the ethical answer is to guide them properly. Sometimes the absolute best service you can provide is simply not taking the file. Pretending you can offer specialized advice, like complex legal counsel or tax planning, when you aren't strictly licensed for it is dangerous. Advising a prospect that the work is outside your scope and then referring them to an appropriately licensed expert, that builds massive professional integrity and incredible long-term trust. It shows you care way more about their overall success than just making a quick buck.
And this brings us right to the core philosophy of this entire explainer, the stark contrast between volume and value. The pursuit of volume means endlessly chasing more clicks, more messages, more followers. It is completely exhausting. The pursuit of value, however, means pausing to ask how many of those leads are actually qualified, profitable, aligned, and ready to do the work. Remember this: the wrong customer creates pressure. The right customer creates progress.
So, I'll leave you with this question to ask yourself today. Are you chasing volume or are you building value? A strong business knows exactly who it serves, what it offers, where its limits are, and exactly when to proudly say no. It's time to leave that chaotic, volume-driven mindset behind and start growing responsibly. Apply these frameworks to your startup and just watch how much more effective and profitable your days become. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.